Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli. How you
Hello,
doing?
hello.
Here we are, another week, and I'm like, you sent me a note earlier in the evening. It's like I added some Disney articles, and I'm like, yay! No,
Yeah,
Disney depresses me.
it is depressing. It really is. I
What?
just figured that this was stuff that was like, a lot of people have talked about it, and it was like, we really can't not talk about this. We should probably squeeze this in there.
That one article you were sent me though, Rachel Zegler in the Bounty in the Comments article, they kept having pictures of her from West Side Story in that white dress,
Sure.
looking very pretty. I'm like, well, there's your princess.
Yeah,
There's your Snow White.
yeah.
She doesn't
But
look like that in the interviews, but she looked like that in the Spielberg movie. I don't
I'll tell you, it
understand.
doesn't. It at this point doesn't even matter what she looks like. Her attitude is
It's been
just
horrible.
so. She like said, okay, Brie Larson, I'm going to be like her, but I'm going to crank it up to 11
I don't get it. I'm
because it
gonna
was
take
so successful for Brie.
Brie Larson. Yes, I haven't heard much from her lately. Matanui, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say the ratings for Ahsoka are pretty low. That's the scuttlebutt. We'll get into it later, though. Welcome, Big Al. Hello, everyone. Hope you geezers have a wonderful stream. Thank you, Big Al. I believe he may be joining. We unfortunately Birdman had some car trouble, but we're going to try to redo the Race with the Devil stream this Wednesday on this channel. So, and I think Big Al will be joining us for that. Cry Havoc and let loose the Geeky Geezers. Thank you.
Havoc.
But Tenzin, yes, but objectively, yes. Have you been watching Ahsoka just out of curiosity?
No, I have not.
Okay,
Even though, of course, I could take to the high seas if I so chose, and David Pensack hooked me up with another streaming option if I wanted to watch it. It's not worth the bandwidth to me.
you just don't care.
I don't.
I posted something in your MeWe Star Wars group. I think Mahler made a video about.
Yes,
Did you? I don't know
I
if you watched
love
that.
that.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of this guy before. I said something to the effect of, this guy and the critical drinker should get together. And then somebody in the group was like, they do a talk show together every week. And I'm like, oh, well, hell, I didn't know.
Well, that
I don't
makes
ever,
sense now.
I don't ever listen to his live streams. I only, watch what he uploads. But this Mahler guy's spot on.
Yeah. 07. They remove one of James Bond's O's on the 007.
No,
Is that what you're getting?
I think that's one of those, what do they call emojis? Like
I don't know.
a face and a nose or something. I don't know. I've seen that before.
Well,
I'm just
that's
too
good.
geeky to, or maybe I'm not geeky enough. I'm too geezer to know what that is.
So you're not even interested in Ahsoka just out of curiosity. You're just done. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. I watched the cartoon.
Mhm.
I watched the Rebels. I watched the well, actually, I'm not even sure I watched all of Rebels. I watched all of
I watched all of Rebels. There were some good things and bad things about it.
It was easy to just watch it and go, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool. This is a story that takes place in the Star Wars universe. It's like if we were doing a role-playing game
right
in Star Wars, but it has nothing to do with canon. It has nothing to do with the mainline storyline.
Right.
But now that they're going to live action, and I've got some issues with what's going on in the toy world as a in relationship to this, because they've been putting out, the animated versions of these characters, and now they're re-releasing all of them in the live action versions. And it's like, who are you really marketing to? I mean, and because we're getting multiple versions of Ahsoka and Hera and Chopper and blah 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 blah, you're spending all your time giving us different versions. There's other figures that people want that you're not putting out at all.
Like how about a cartoon version of Luke? That'd be interesting.
Really, actually, I want to see cartoon versions of all the characters from that Boba Fett holiday special video.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
I'm working on some of those, by the way.
Hello, the chat. Welcome, Horizon Talker. Probably not going to be here long. Okay,
That's
we got a
fair.
big
Thanks for
week this
stopping
week.
by.
Well, we all have, yeah, we all have those. Mine was this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can catch up this week. Good evening, Agent Boomer. Last call. Well, good evening to you, D Penzak. Now I'm starting to sound like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
He had a way of talking, Mr.
He did.
Rogers.
Yeah.
Yes, Joshua V.
Yeah.
Welcome.
What I loved about him was he never talked down to kids, right? The
No,
way he talked
he didn't talk
was
down to anybody,
he
really.
talked on his show to the audience the way he talked to everybody in real life.
Hmm.
It was mellow and kind. And I mean, I guess you could say there was a simplicity to it, the kind that children would respond to, but it was not a talking down. It was more, just how he was. He was a simple guy,
Yeah,
well educated, very intelligent,
yeah.
but
I think he had degrees in psychology. He'd also gone to, I think, divinity school, or I think
yep,
it's trying to be a reverend. He was
he was
very,
he.
yeah. I think
I
he
think
was a
he
reverend at one
was a
point. Yeah,
minister. Yeah,
yeah, a minister. Yeah, yeah. So he was a smart dude, but he knew how to talk to children. Yeah. Welcome, Lester, San Jose, the Skeptic Tank.
Howdy, howdy.
Well, the legendary Loma is one of the many YouTubers whose career was started by Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson, I feel, has. Can we blame him for ruining pop culture?
I think we can. Horizon Talker brings up something I hadn't heard about. Speaking of Star Wars RPGs, if you love Star Wars and want to enjoy the sequel trilogy in some capacity, Darths and Droids is currently roasting the crap out of the Last Jedi right now. I'll have to look into
for
this
that.
Darths and Droids. Hadn't heard about that.
Big Al is liking it. Ray Stevens' character is awesome. Well, I heard he's the best part of the show. That's what I've
Which
heard.
is sad because Ray
No
Stevens is
longer
no
with
longer
us.
with us.
I
And
like, yeah.
he makes a good point. He says he's enjoying it, but it's not as great as The Mandalorian. And we're going to get into that too when we get to that topic, because the ratings aren't as good either.
They need to be doing better than Mandalorian. In fact, I have to say this to Warner Brothers with their new Superman movie. It has to be better than Superman 79 at this point. You have to really hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's not good enough is not going to be good enough anymore.
And honestly,
because that character's been dragged through the mud over the years.
Nothing I have seen it fills me with any confidence. And for all the talk about James Gunn and his new reboot of the universe or whatever, well, I don't know. I look at the what was that series he had with the Bob what's his name, the wrestler, the Mandarin apologist, what's his name?
I know what you're talking about.
Can't see me because I'm an idiot. And I'm sold out to China.
John Mancini. Yeah, but he was on that. What was the name of the show? I don't remember what it was.
The Patriot, the Prisoner, the
something
Packer.
Like
I don't know, but
yes.
John Cena. Yeah, John China. Right, go. Exactly.
Whatever.
And he had some joke in there talking about working with Superman. Oh, he's got a poop fetish, and it's like, seriously, this is how you're going to start your Peacemaker. That's what it was.
Peacemaker. Thank you.
Yeah, Peacemaker was a minor character that they brought in during the John Byrne era, and I was moderately aware of him. But as soon as they started this crap, in the pseudo Snyder leading into James Gunn era, I was like, I don't even care. And especially when I saw who they cast, I'm like, well, screw him. I want nothing to do with that. And then he's making poop jokes about Superman. It's like, you know what? You've already shot yourself in the foot. So I have zero faith. And it's like so many other things. I will wait until it comes out, and I will keep my eyes on Big L Presents and Deleted Scenes and all the other channels that I love that do reviews. And then I will decide whether or not it's even worth my time to check out. Because at this point, most of the crap we're getting is not worth my time or money. I've got way too many things to be doing to be, spending 2 hours in a theater watching a movie that's going to piss me off, and then I'm going to spend, hours and hours grousing about it.
Sure, it's not 2 hours 45 minutes, in which 45 minutes should have been cut out of it. I'm sorry. Wait a minute, I'll be good.
Right.
Actually, though, speaking of superhero movies, and speaking of basically a time in cinematic history when the superhero movie was really on the down and out.
Take me back to the good old days.
And I believe this was when 98.
98,
I think this was a year after Batman and Robin came out.
Yep.
And Batman and Robin had come out, I think, in 97, and it was a
before you go farther than that, focus on that for a second, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Look at what happened with Batman. We had coming off of Superman, right? Coming off of the Christopher Reeve era of Superman, right? Where Richard Donner's his saying, right, his North Star was verisimilitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can do whatever you want around him, but Superman's got to take it seriously, right? He was looking at things like the Batman 66 and going, that's a farce. Superman cannot be a farce. He's got to take it seriously,
Yes.
So you get that line where he's like, I stand for truth, justice, and the American way. And you get the offhanded, goofy comment from Lois that kind of says what all the, people that poo-poo comics would say. Oh, yeah, right. And then you're going to be taking on every elected official in the country. And just with straight seriousness, kind of like you would expect to hear from Mr. Rogers, as we were talking about.
Yes.
Surely you don't mean that, Lois. And suddenly, and you can feel how she reacts. She just goes to goo inside, and she feels terrible for thinking that,
because she's gotten too cynical.
And Superman makes her want to be better than that, right?
Oh,
verisimilitude.
That is so weird. I realize Superman and Mr. Rogers, they fight the fight against cynicism.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that.
There you go.
It would have been awesome. I don't think this ever happened, but it would have been cool if Christopher Reeve had showed up as Superman on Mr. Rogers and for an episode. That would have been interesting.
Right.
I bet no one thought of that at the time, but that would have been a great...
Probably. But then we go into the Tim Burton Batman.
Yes.
Which, let's face it, Batman is a very different character from Superman.
Yes.
They don't go back to the mold of the 66.
No.
They're going with their own version of verisimilitude. Yes, it is still very fanciful, very dark, but in a very different, more grounded kind of way. It's not a farce, at least not in the same sense, right? And there was an article that I was thinking about sharing today that I didn't, where Michael Keaton, just doesn't like what happened to Batman after he left it, and he doesn't like what DC is doing to Batman now.
Okay.
And but it very much did that after 2 films under Tim Burton with Michael Keaton. The McDonald's effect kicks in, and the distributors are going, well, we can't distribute to kids. This is too adult. You need to, bring it down to kid level. So they went back to the campy craziness of the 1966 Batman, and it all kind of falls apart, right?
Especially with Batman and Robin.
Right.
I mean, there are problems with Batman Forever, which maybe we'll get to on a Friday stream someday.
Sure.
But
that brings us around to 98 then, where we're really the next superhero film, which now this is Marvel. This isn't DC.
It's Marvel. Yep.
But who wrote it? It was actually the comic book guy writing it, right? David S. Goyer.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm kind of stepping all over.
No, it's all right. But this was not even billed as a comic book movie when it was out. Now, of course,
most people didn't know it was. That's
like
a good
my
point.
friends who were Marvel fans. Oh, that's Blade. I know what Blade is. They were not billing it as even a Marvel movie,
right?
I think they still put Marvel, when they were doing the credits.
Okay, they had no choice because it was,
but they were not trying to build this as like a comic book, because like a year prior we get Batman and Robin, which was a disaster. Which maybe we'll talk about it on another stream, but. So
I like Horizon Talker. Superman, Mr. Rogers would have been a mind-blowing crossover. Can you imagine Lex Luthor trying his man must stand on his own shtick on Fred Rogers? That would be epic. Yeah. Oh
oh,
yeah, especially when you know, there's got to be some line in there where someone makes a comment about Mr. Rogers not having any superpowers at all, and what's he doing, even teaming up with Superman, and him, Mr. Rogers, just going to Lex Luthor and saying, "Mr. Luthor, I understand that you've had a very difficult time and you're really upset about some things, and I'd like to hear more about it. I want you to know that I like you just the way you are." And then just by the end of it, Lex Luthor he's in tears and he's talking about, his father and his upbringing, and
turning himself in for the crimes he
turns
committed.
himself in. Yeah, exactly. So, and then Clark just turns to someone and goes, "So what was that about Mr. Rogers not having superpowers?"
That's funny. Uh anyway, Blade though, a character very not like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Blade is
You
a
could make the comparison to Batman if you want to.
kind of, yeah. And they were sort of channeling, especially with the design, that original Tim Burton Batman, with the way a lot of the
Right.
villains look with their leather jackets and
Sure.
stuff. And you have it starts out the movie. It starts out with this guy. He's going to a club with a Tracy Lords. Well,
Yeah.
we're not gonna get too much of her
She
background on
was
this
starting
stream.
to get into legitimate films at the time.
Yes.
Was this before or after she had done the movie with Johnny Depp,
I
Crybaby?
think after. I think a few years after.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're going to this club, and she's flirting with him and stuff, and they go to this club, and suddenly everyone's in this club is acting strangely. They're doing, they're dancing around to the techno, or the DJ is playing, and
Yep.
but suddenly she's ignoring him, and then people start kind of knocking him around, and then suddenly the sprinklers come on and blood starts shooting out from the sprinklers, and no one's acting funny about it. He's like, "What is this?" And he's crying, and all the vampires start beating. They're vampires, and they start
Yeah.
beating him up, and it's like something out of a horror movie, right? And then suddenly he's trying to get away from the crowd, and he's crawling on, and then suddenly he goes up to a couple of boots on the ground, and it's Blade
Yeah.
in all his glory. And the vampires start screaming, "Daywalker, Daywalker!"
Mhm.
It's the Daywalker.
What
And they all go to attack him, and he just starts wailing and killing vampires left and right, and they turn to ash, and it's awesome.
and
And
I'm pretty
it's great.
sure
Wesley Snipes as Blade. Yes,
this also predates Underworld, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, predates
Yeah.
Underworld. What I like about this movie, because I think Interview with the Vampire came out a few years earlier, and I was getting tired of. I want my
The
vampires to be
romanticized vampire.
romanticized vamp. I want my vampires to be monsters, and they go the exact opposite. You don't even like the vampires in this
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
They are kind of like gang members. They're kind of scuzzy. It's just they're not likable people. And
This is what a lot of people have always said about both vampire people that are thinking critically anyway about both vampires and superheroes, right? You've got to keep in mind that in the real world, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
yeah,
So whatever you want to say about vampires, whether they're, you go with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer model, where if they become a vampire, they lose their soul. They
right.
have no remorse. They have no sense of right and wrong. They're just pure evil. Or you can go more the Anne Rice route, where they're just the same as they were before, but now they're vampires and immortal. Well, immortality is a power in and of itself that eventually leads to corruption,
I
right?
think so.
When you don't have that fear of death, when you don't and especially when you have the powers that the vampires have, and you can exert that over other people, that's a very tempting, very corrupting sort of thing. That's why people so desperately fail to understand Superman. And I understand why they do things like Homelander and whatever that other movie was that they did with the kid that
Brightburn.
And stuff like that. That is what you would expect to happen with someone who has those kinds of powers, only in a world where you have good parents that are absolutely teaching humility and sense of responsibility and righteousness to a child, will they grow up, to be like Superman?
My only defense of Homelander, and trust me, there's not a lot I'll defend about that character, or how, but they did make a point on the show that he was raised in a lab. He didn't even have parents.
Yes,
So
yes,
that kind of messed him
absolutely.
up. Yeah.
And that's incredibly dangerous, right? I
Yes.
mean, it makes sense in the sense of the story, but oh my gosh. But anyway, getting back to Blade,
Blade. Yeah.
Blade is a great example of somebody who he kind I mean, they literally call him a daywalker. He
Yeah.
literally has a foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
He's half human. He's a Dhampir, right?
Yeah. He's
Uh,
half human, half vampire.
and the
His mother
reason
was
he's
bitten while she was pregnant, and I guess died in childbirth and gave birth to Blade. And well, we
yeah,
find out later on that may not have happened.
without
Yes.
getting too into
Spoiler.
his origin story in a way that might get this video taken down by the YouTube algorithms.
Well, that's what Whistler said in the movie. I don't know what happened in the comics.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all
and
right,
see,
yeah.
and that's the other point. This isn't DC, this is Marvel, and Marvel did have the much darker, reality-based type
This is like
characters.
a character like Ghost Rider or the Punisher. It exists in that kind of darker Marvel world.
Exactly
Yes.
right. So
Yeah.
don't be looking for that aspirational hero, Superman, even Batman kind of thing. So that's why when this comes out, people don't immediately think comics. They don't immediately think superheroes. That's why this was so different. And the only people that recognized this as a comic book character were, the diehards that were like, well, it's weird that he doesn't have a crazy afro. Oh, it's not set in the 70s. That's why,
Yeah, maybe he did in the 70s. I
Yeah,
liked his
exactly.
hairstyle in that. He had a good
Yeah.
style. I
And it was fine for the time it was
Mhm.
written. They needed to update it, and they did it just fine, right?
He had the black trench coat.
Yeah.
Whistler, I liked the contrast. He's like the hillbilly guy, played by the great Chris Christopherson. And of course,
Yes.
our villain, Deacon Frost, who was played by Stephen Dorff.
Yeah.
And you hated Stephen Dorff, but every so often he'd make you laugh, like when the guy was like, Blade came in and like, oh, I see. Yeah, he threw it up in the air, he caught it underneath the sword. He's like,
Yeah.
shut the F up. And he's like, getting
Yeah.
angry at his henchmen. And I don't know. And of course I'm trying to find the full cast here. He had a female, not necessarily love interest, scientist lady that was helping him out, played by a black actress. So this was back in '98.
Was it like Nabushi Wright or something like
I
that?
think so. Yeah, and again, not forced, felt completely natural because
Yeah.
it's just, and like I said, I don't know if they were going to try pairing them up or not later on,
Yeah.
but Udo Kier played another evil vampire in that. In fact, they
Mhm.
made a point in this movie about pure-blooded vampires versus
The Dhampir, yeah.
well, basically also the difference between vampires that were born versus vampires that were turned.
Were made, yeah.
And the
Okay.
ones that are turned are lower in the caste system in vampire
Sure.
society, and that's what Stephen Dorff's Deacon Frost hated.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. He wants to bring back the blood god, and there's some Lovecraftian elements here,
Yeah.
or at least some Robert E. Howard style elements here. And the thing I just liked about the character Blade knowing this is that he just hates vampires. That's
Yeah.
it. That's his modus operandi. He
Yeah.
hates vampires, and he'll do anything to stop them. There's a wonderful scene where he has to go to this club that might be housing vampires, and there's this big burly bouncer out front. Do you have an invitation? Cardo? And then next thing you see is the guy getting thrown through the glass window in the club. And
Here's my invitation, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and what I was alluding to is that he has reason to hate vampires when he knows what his origin is and what happened to his mom. He's like, and it doesn't even have to be a vampire story for you to, if you know that origin story, to know why a kid would grow up and hate a certain group of people for doing something to their mom. Even if they are the result of it.
And Whistler, what was it? I think he came up with a serum that he has to take to suppress his thirst, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it gets harder to resist the thirst. In fact, this wasn't mentioned in the movie, but I remember on the Blade television series that was short lived. He went up to this one girl that had been turned to a vampire, and she's trying to work with him, even though she was a cop that is now a vampire. And he basically goes up to her and he says, You're an addict. That's what you are now.
Yeah.
That's what he's explaining to her about the craving of the blood. You're an addict now. That's
Yeah.
what it is. I thought that was an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's not the only place that's done that. And sometimes I have to wonder if that, uh, was an idea that came up before Blade, or if Blade introduced that and it started showing up in other things. But that becomes a big plot point in like the White Wolf role playing game, Vampire the Masquerade,
Right.
and so forth.
And Sookie Stackhouse and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All that stuff, the Sookie Stackhouse
The
mysteries.
Southern Vampire
Yeah.
mysteries. Yeah. So that kind of thing. So a lot of tropes, if they weren't created and introduced in the 98 Blade, at least they were brought into the public awareness by it.
Yeah. But Blade, in my opinion, is what saved the superhero movie. I
It
think
kinda did.
basically it was done. I think after that you got X-Men and then you got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. But before then, it was Blade.
Which is also an explanation of why, DC languished for as long as it did, and it was really Marvel that ended up becoming like you said, the new renaissance of the superhero story.
Here's what's ironic though. New Line Cinema put out Blade. Maybe they were working in conjunction with Marvel, but it was New Line Cinema,
Yes,
which was owned by Warner Brothers.
Yes, this was in that era before Marvel Studios had really taken off and was doing their own thing. This was definitely before Disney came along. And that's the irony, right? Because Marvel Comics had licensed out their movies to all different companies, and so you couldn't get a shared universe because there were so many characters that could only be touched by certain studios, and it was all over the place. Warner Brothers never had that. Warner Brothers always owned DC Comics lock, stock, and barrel, and could have done a shared universe from 1978 if they wanted to, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So I have no sympathy for any missed opportunities that they had, but Blade was it came about in an awesome sweet spot. 1998, the rise of the internet, right? So as we both pointed out, not a lot of people really knew of Blade as a comic book character, but boy, the internet did. And you were able to find out, and then you could find those old comics, and you can go, wow, it would be. And you had, what we would now call normies going, oh, so you're telling me I could have Blade meet Spider-Man? Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you could.
I almost think though it would have been better to have Blade exist in a more R-rated universe with like Jessica Jones and like Punisher and characters like that. That might have been, but yeah, I know
In a
all
perfect world, a
interconnected and it's all
non-Disney
interconnected.
world,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Marvel Studios had stayed, and don't expect me to start a new new MeWe group for an alternate version of the Marvel universe, but in an alternate universe, Marvel Studios didn't go bankrupt, didn't get bought out by Disney. That's probably exactly what would have happened. We would have gotten the street level R-rated stuff with Luke Cage, Blade, Jessica Jones, the Punisher, all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have had your Avengers movies, you would have had your X-Men series, you would have had all these. Yes, there could have absolutely been crossovers at any given time. They could have even done a TV series that did like team ups and stuff like that. But and welcome, Netter of Netter's Network, I love you too.
I think he showed up on Spider-Man the animated series, the one from the 90s. I think
I'm not surprised.
He was after Morbius. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Morbius is another one.
Yeah. Of course he's
and
not.
Now it's Morbin time.
Oh, that lovely chestnut. Wasn't Blade the first R-rated superhero movie?
Maybe.
It was probably the first based on an actual superhero character. Like I still argue my favorite superhero movie is RoboCop, and people argue, well, he's not really a superhero. Well,
yeah, I get what
he kind of is. He's a super powered man.
He's no less a superhero than like Cyborg or Sergeant Steel or.
That's my point. And even though it's not technically based on a comic book superhero, though. I think there was a comic book made after that, which I think Frank Miller did. I think Frank Miller did a version of his RoboCop
I
too,
wouldn't
which
be
I'm
surprised. I'm
I'm
sure it was.
kind of curious
I
to
know there
read.
was a lot of great crossover comics. There was Terminator,
Yeah, RoboCop
Ter-
versus Terminator. Yeah, that was a thing.
and there were some other ones too that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah.
But welcome, Netter of Netter's Network. I'm glad
Yep,
you
yep,
had a good nap. I get a hi, sweetie. Thank you.
yep.
All right, so I guess we have to move on. But Blade, still a classic. Blade 2 is pretty good too. I know some people didn't like it as much as the first one. And Blade 3, steer clear from. Even Ryan Reynolds can't save
I
it.
would say
Here we go. You're going to defend it. Okay.
no, not really. It sucked. It really did. But it probably is worth at least one watch. And then especially if you've seen, I mean, don't see it on its own. If you haven't seen 1 and 2, by no means
Oh,
see 3. But after
okay.
having seen 1 and 2, check out 3 and
Yeah.
just think through what it probably should have
Let's
been.
go to the
Not what
trouble
it
of bringing
actually was.
bringing Whistler back from the dead in part 2, only to kill him off again in part 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's right up there with
Keep him
Highlander 2,
dead,
right?
or just I don't want to. I like Chris Christopherson. Don't get me wrong, but then they just get rid of him again. It's like,
Yeah.
no,
I
he
feel
didn't
like
have
there
a
was a
daughter.
story there that would have been good, but there was a lot of other problems with Blade 3. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and,
I've heard.
so there's
You
more
need
than
you need
just that.
directors that can wrangle your actors better, I guess. But still, I'm not necessarily blaming Snipes because it sounded like that's the script kind of sucked.
There
It's
was a
like,
whole lot of
okay.
dysfunction going on there. There's no doubt about
And,
that.
Goyer, we'll talk more about him later. He's the one that directed. He went from writer to director. This is what says some people need to stay in the writer's room. But anyway, we don't have any kind of transition point. We have, except that
I mean, unless you want to jump down to and take that Goyer article and just go with that first.
I gotta find it
doesn't
first.
hurt
Say hi to
anything.
the chat while I'm hunting for it.
Hello, the chat. I'm seeing a lot of people that I had said hi to earlier over in deleted scenes. Let's see. Oh shoot! I'm screwing up my links here because unfortunately Variety decided to give us a really really long title. So I'll give you the title and then I'll give you the
The what?
link. There you go.
I can't even find this thing. It's all about Ahsoka. Hold on, let me find it. This is. I was
Before. Oh, are you not looking at my notes? I put the notes together to make
I'm
it easy.
looking at them now. Give me a second.
It's right after the
gaming
gaming
crap.
stuff.
It's
It
after
goes
gaming
gaming
crap.
and then
Okay.
DC.
Bait and Kados.
There you go.
There's the okay now gaming adjacent. That's a theme park. Here we go. This is what
Is it really?
I got it. What? The theme park gaming adjacent? You seem to think so. We'll get into
Well,
it
okay,
later.
yeah, kind of.
We're getting off track. The whole purpose
We'll
of
talk
the
about
article.
why I called it that in a minute. Yeah.
Man of Steel writer says it was crazy how Warner Brothers and DC tried to build their own MCU, reveals David Fincher's 2-hour Blade meeting.
Yeah.
You know what makes me angry about Man of Steel? After seeing Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, where he went super realistic,
Yeah.
Batman really did exist in our world, what would he be like? I thought they should have gone the exact opposite route with the Superman trilogy and gone fanciful,
Well, and
pure
again,
imagination, World of Tomorrow,
I'm going to
just
say
gone nuts and not made it our world.
you could make it. Again. Going back to the verisimilitude of Richard Donner, right? You can do whatever you want with the world around Superman, but Superman has to be Superman, and that was not Superman.
Do Mr. Mixospitlick. That could be a whole movie.
You could do that too. I don't think that's the one you start with, though. That's
no, but I would have gotten a kick out of it. In fact, they really messed it up on Smallville big time.
Oh,
that was
God.
the perfect
that
venue
was terrible.
to have
That
Mr. Mixospitlick as a recurring character. I even argued they could have gotten Jerry Seinfeld to play him.
That would have been awesome.
Jerry Seinfeld was a big Superman fan.
Awesome.
Have him show up as Mr. Spitlick, and he's just messing with Clark because he doesn't have to be Superman yet to have Mr. Mixospitlick.
They actually did a great version of Mixospitlick on the Superboy series.
Really?
That was also an Elia Sulkide production back when it was like kind of.
I never saw that one. I saw some of the episodes of that, but I didn't see that episode. I saw the Metallo episode. I saw a lot of stuff with Lex Luthor. I didn't realize they did Mr. Mxyzptlk. He was on
Yeah.
Superman the Animated Series. Gilbert Godfrey played his voice.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, perfect casting. Oh, that's
Yes.
brilliant.
Anyway, Man of Steel writer says it was crazy how Warner Brothers and DC tried to build their own MCU, reveals David Fincher's 2-hour Blade meeting. In a career-spanning interview on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Man of Steel writer David S. Goyer agreed with host Joshua Horowitz that Warner Brothers should have developed a standalone Superman sequel with Henry Cavill instead of attempting to mount a cinematic universe with Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice. The studio did so in order to compete with Marvel. I know the pressure we were getting from Warner Brothers, which was, we need our MCU, we need our MCU. And I was like, let's not run before we walk, Goyer said. The other thing that was difficult at the time was that there was a revolving door of executives at Warner Brothers and DC.
True.
Every 18 months, someone new would come in. We were just getting whiplash. Every new person was like, we're going to go bigger. I remember at one point, the person running Warner Brothers at the time had this release that pitched the next 20 movies over the next 10 years, but none of them had been written yet. Goyer continued in amazement. It was crazy how much architecture is being built on air. This is not how you build a house. Goyer worked closely with Christopher Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy, and the two conceived of a Superman movie that would become Zack Snyder's 2013 tentpole Man of Steel. Goyer wrote the film, but Cavill never got the chance to lead another standalone Superman movie, as the remainder of his time in the Crimson Cape was spent in the universe building tentpoles such as Batman versus Superman and Justice League. Can I just make a point? Crimson Cape? No, it's not Crimson. Stop. This is the problem. That's like Blood Red.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was. Actually, no, maybe it was in Man of Steel. Now that I'm thinking about it.
And you know, it's funny, Snarky J, a YouTuber you kind of turned me on to, was making a comment about the fact that Ben Affleck's Batman is the only character, you know, in that you know, Justice League thing. Well, you know, Cyborg aside, who was never supposed to have been a Justice Leaguer.
No, that doesn't make any sense. They've been trying to do that in the comics too. He's a Titan.
He's a Titan, and he should be a Titan.
Yeah.
But Affleck was the only one. He's certainly the only one of the Trinity who didn't get his own movie. So for all the, you know, complaining I've done over the years about Batfleck, in all fairness, he never even got his own movie for me to judge him by.
He was supposed to. It's what eventually turned into the Pattinson Batman movie. That was originally started out as the Affleck Batman project, which was going to feature Deathstroke as the main villain, which the new Batman movie they're working on apparently I think is also going to have I don't know if they announced this or if this is just my suspicion that it's going to be Deathstroke as the villain again.
Yeah.
Because I think they can't use any Batman villains in it because of the Pattinson Batman movies. So
yeah.
It's still a mess over there. I'm sorry. Until I see differently, I'm just going to say it. Anyway, prior to getting Batman and Superman movies off the ground, Goyer wrote all 3 Blade movies starring Wesley Snipes. He even directed the 3rd film, Blade Trinity. He confirmed on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast that he originally worked with David Fincher on bringing the Blade project to life. I developed a draft with Fincher before he had done 7, Goyer said. I think he had done Alien 3, and maybe he was developing 7. I developed a draft with him. I remember going to our producer's office. There was this big, giant conference table. Fincher laid out 40 to 50 books of photography and art with Post-it notes inside them. He said, "This is the movie." What? It's like something out of a David Lynch movie. This is the girl. That's what I'm thinking of when I hear that. Fincher took us on a 2-hour tour of the table, aesthetics of this scene, that character. Goyer continued. It was such a fully fleshed out visual pitch. I'd never seen something like that before. A lot of that thinking infused my further revisions. Stephen Norrington ended up directing Blade, and Fincher moved on to 7 when the project hit roadblocks in development. Watch Goyer's full interview on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast in the video below. I don't know if I would have liked that Fincher version. David Fincher's hit or miss with me. Sometimes.
Yeah, but actually Goyer is with me too. So
yeah, I mean, he did well with that Dark Knight trilogy. I thought. Some people may argue with me on that too, but I did like those movies for what they were. I didn't care for Man of Steel at all. I didn't even want to see it in the theater. I had a bad feeling about it. That bad feeling was confirmed when I did see it. It's just, and I'm telling you, we're like that was 2 for 2 because we had Superman Returns a couple of years earlier, which I'm sorry, that was supposed to be a soft reboot, another soft reboot. And again, that just, I don't know. The bad embargo is still a thing. I don't know what that is. That's the only thing I think referring to with them. Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's still a thing, Matanui. Yeah, no, I had read that. I forget where I read that. No, if they can't use any villains that the director of the Pattinson Batman trilogy wants to use in another of his contract for directing those Batman movies starring Pattinson. He gets to use whatever he wants in the Batman, and he has first dibs on it before anybody else. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the
So if
other
he
thing.
wants to use the Joker, they can't use the Joker in this DC universe version of Batman until
This is again my problem. This is not like Marvel that's got different studios and different agreements with different studios. This is all under Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers allows their filmmakers to run roughshod all over them. And this is the one area where I do feel that the studio has to say, this is our intellectual property. This is what it is. Do you want to make this movie? Otherwise, goodbye. You are making a Batman movie. Batman takes place within the DC universe. He's got an established lore. If you can't work with that, you can't work with this film. Goodbye.
This deal was made before Zaslav took over. Now, Zaslav would not have okayed this, but this happened before he got there. And they might be contractually obligated to follow it. So what do you do with a Batman movie where you can't use Batman villains, where you bring in Deathstroke as your villain, which I think is what they're going to do because they did a Son of Batman animated movie where I think Deathstroke was the villain.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they're going to do. And I don't know if I read somewhere that Deathstroke was going to be villain or if I just guessed that based on what they're doing with Damian Wayne and it being Batman, that they're just going to have.
And that's another thing that a lot of fans have a lot of problems with. Is skipping over all the other Robins to give us one of the least liked Robins.
They can make him likable if they want. Any director, if he's talented enough. Of course, it's the director that made the Flash movie that came out recently. So
it's very difficult to give him the kind of story arc he should have without the previous Robins.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I was the only one that hated Man of Steel. Here's what happened with me and Man of Steel when I saw it, and I remember arguing with myself: is this better than Superman Returns? And I came to the conclusion it's just bad in a different way because there's plenty I didn't like about Superman Returns as well. But Man of Steel, I just came out of it with a hollow feeling. It didn't feel like Superman.
It wasn't Superman. It was not Superman. I think more and more people are coming around to understanding that.
He's depressed. And people make an argument at the time we got to Batman versus Superman, how the world's all upset when Superman dies. And it's like, no, they're not. They hate him.
Why?
Why? They were wanting to put him on trial in I guess the Senate, right? They in his
and you're talking about the whole real world aspect and that kind of element of it. Take a look around you. Do you think if something sad were to happen to Russell Brand tomorrow, suddenly everyone would be like, "Oh, no, you're too busy demonizing him over something he did or didn't do." This is the way cancel culture works. We're seeing that in Man of Steel. This is cancel culture tearing down this, superhero who hasn't even had a chance to have his, I spent the night with Superman story written,
honestly, I hope they don't use the Joker, at least not to the last one. I guess you're talking about the Pattinson trilogy. I kept thinking they might tie in the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie to the Pattinson movies, but I guess
I hope none of it happens, to be honest with you, because I don't see the Pattinson Batman. It's not been popular enough for them to, and I also don't see Gunn being interested in pulling that and making that his.
They're not doing it. They're not doing it. That they've already argued that's an Elseworld.
So you're again completely screwed in your intended shared universe.
In his pitch to us. Remember when he did that pitch months back, and it's like, here's the new DC universe. I'm like, why are you pitching it to us? This is like a studio pitch, what you'll do. And half of these projects, I don't even know if they're even going to get off the ground by the time you take over. Anyway, they've been very
pretty
quiet
much what
about
Hollywood has become, right?
I've heard nothing about DC. They'll just argue it's the strikes. We can't talk about it. Yeah. But we still have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming out, right? I think
Oh
the
yeah,
trailer
that's
for
something
that
to look
finally.
forward to. That's going to be lots of fun.
I think the trailer came out for that. I need to watch it just to see. Bruce is a child. He would be too old to be in Pattinson's Joker. I don't know. Unless they're trying to make Pattinson Joker more like the Jack Nicholson age because he was older. I don't know. It's just. Anyway, initial cost for Rachel. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have to go back to the beginning. Let's talk about the Xbox leaks.
Oh
Talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. Let's get
So,
back.
talk about something that's all black and has a glowing X on it, which is not Batman, so that's not even a good tie-in. Let's just move on, okay?
So what is this about Xbox leaks?
I'm
I
terrified what
in
Disney's
the
going to do to
in
the
the
X-Men. I'm
in
sorry.
the in the thumbnail, I drew an Xbox with a leaky elbow pipe coming out of it.
Oh, hold on, wait a minute. The Joker is in the Batman. Oh, okay, so he had a cameo. All right, I think I heard that somewhere. I thought it was a deleted scene, but I guess it's in the actual movie.
Yeah, he is. It's a
Okay,
different Joker. Yeah.
maybe there'll be different Jokers. It could be Batman versus a whole bunch of different Jokers.
It was you don't get a very clear view of him, and it's very clear that it's a similar looking Joker to the um
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. Yeah, but he doesn't play him exactly the same. Plays him almost like and the scene comes off very much like a Hannibal Lecter kind of a thing,
Okay.
going to talk to the villain that's locked up about insights into some other villain, and
It's the Joker. Okay.
I don't know. It's just weird.
I actually would have done that with Lex Luthor. In fact, I think they did that in that
Yes.
that Man of Tomorrow movie we watched, or
Well, that has been the problem, hasn't it? You've had these writers that don't know the difference between Joker and Lex Luthor and treat them as if they're basically the same. Oh, it's the arch villain. It's the same. It's the same basic thing, right?
yes,
No.
I know if I were doing a Superman story, I would actually have it start out where Lex Luthor is in prison and Superman's up against a different threat, but there might be on occasion where he has to go and actually talk to Lex Luthor, to get
Interesting.
ideas of
Yeah.
what to do. And they kind of did that in that Man of Tomorrow movie. So I guess I was plugged into the same part of the collective unconscious. But
Sure.
if you believe in that, okay. Everything we learned about the biggest Xbox leak, about the biggest leak in Xbox history. This is kind of interesting. This of course, the FTC is keep trying to go after Microsoft for buying of Activision. Apparently, a document got leaked, and apparently, this is a document that should have been redacted. Like where stuff was blacked out,
Mm-hmm.
but it got released. So we basically learned a whole bunch of possible Xbox plans for the next few years, which are not. Someone somewhere is getting fired.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know on which side, the government side or on the Xbox side, but somebody screwed up. Okay, so anyway, if you thought you were done learning juicy details about the internal workings of Xbox after this summer's Federal Trade Commission Microsoft trial wrapped up, whoo boy, you can guess again. A jaw-dropping court document leak has revealed a ton of information about recent goings on within the Microsoft game division, as well as critical details about its future plans. Perhaps the biggest nugget concerning the major Xbox Series X refresh that Microsoft has lined up for next year. All right, so a thing that's become common with modern game consoles is they release newer and better iterations of them halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
Like last cycle, you had Xbox release the Xbox Series S. Sorry, not apologies. The Xbox One S and the Xbox One X were variants of the original Xbox One that were better. They could do a little bit more. And Sony had the PlayStation 4 Pro also get released. I think they had a slim version as well, which wasn't powerful, which is slimmer. And then they had a PlayStation 4 Pro that got released. So different versions of no consoles. This happens all the time, but these versions actually will sometimes have a little bit more horsepower. They can do things the older version couldn't do. So it's almost like when you have a PC and you're getting a new graphics card for it. That might be what I would explain. They could do a little bit more. Well, Microsoft, so codename Brooklyn, a refresher Xbox Series X, will have double the internal storage at 2 terabytes. That's good. 2 terabytes should be the minimum at this point in all game consoles. I don't know why they're still going with 1 terabyte. Lower power usage, Wi-Fi 6E, connectivity. What does that mean, computer guy? Okay, maybe you don't know. Okay, is that just jargon?
I'm guessing the ability to connect to multiple devices.
Oh, okay. All right. And other tech up, so you can connect it to your phone. Okay. According to a leaked document, this model will have a cylindrical design compared to the boxy original Series X. Critically, Microsoft is planning to ditch the console's disk drive. It's not yet clear whether there will be an external disk drive available, as it is rumored to be the case for the PlayStation 5 refresh. It would mark a significant shift to Xbox no longer
You
offering
will
a disk
own
drive.
nothing. You will enjoy it.
You will owe nothing and you will be happy. Microsoft wants us to have a cloud streaming future. This is very apparent. At least, maybe not everybody over Xbox. There may be people there that still want to have a normal game console where you go out and you buy your games, but there are other people that are really pushing for cloud gaming. What's more, Microsoft plans to sell this updated Series X for $499, the same price as the current console. Why am I buying this when it doesn't have a disk drive? The whole point of the Xbox Series S, while I didn't care for it, didn't want to buy it, I assumed it was cheaper because it didn't have a disk drive. You know, it didn't have a Blu-ray player built in. It didn't have a Blu-ray drive in it. That's why it was $200 cheaper. If I'm paying $500, what am I getting? I can't. How am I going to play my physical games?
Right.
Well, you don't play your physical games. You just get all digital. Do you like that future?
I don't know.
Okay, Microsoft is planning to release an updated Xbox controller next year as well, per the redacted filing. Codename Sibile. Am I saying that right? The
Don't know.
peripheral is slated to have precision haptic feedback, perhaps to better compete with Sony's DualSense, quieter inputs, and like some premium controllers, modular thumbsticks. There's said to be support for seamless pairing and switching between the devices with the help of new mobile app features. Intriguingly, a direct-to-cloud feature is mentioned in the slide. That suggests Microsoft is focused on reducing input latency for games streamed from the cloud, like Google tried with Stadia controller. Rest in peace. Nobody wanted Stadia. Sabile is slated to arrive in May, according to the documents. Microsoft is then expected to announce the new Series X and S refresh in June, likely at its annual summer showcase. 299 Series S refresh is now expected to go on sale around August or September 2024, excuse me, with beefed up Series X scheduled to land a couple months later. It seems that Microsoft is planning a clearance sale on the current Series S2, as the slide mentions, $199 offer on Black Friday. Now it's saying next gen Xbox. This is the system that comes after the Xbox Series X. This is their next console that will release in 2028. It seems we're not midway through the current console generation, but of course, Microsoft is thinking about what's ahead. The next gen Xbox, slated to arrive in 2028, is expected to support cloud hybrid games. Now, to be fair, all companies do this. I think it was argued Nintendo started working on the Nintendo 64 right after the Super Nintendo launched. That's how long it takes you to make your next gen game console. You have to start on it right away, right?
Right.
And it will take a few years. There's not much detail above that, but it's clear that the company is moving in this direction for a while. So they want cloud hybrid games. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer thinks, this is also good. This is from 2020. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer thinks it would be like super cool if the company bought Nintendo. Spencer suggested an internal 2020 email discussing acquisition targets that he saw Nintendo as a white whale for the company and one that he was potentially invested in snapping up. He saw that as a potential career moment per the email. The leak has also shed some light. So can I just speak to this for a minute?
Sure.
This would be awful if Xbox bought Nintendo. Microsoft bought Nintendo. Many years ago, there was this company called Rare. And Rare was a company that, while not owned by Nintendo, Nintendo owned a lot of their stock, and they made games exclusively for Nintendo consoles. They worked on games such as GoldenEye, Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie. Somehow, at the beginning of the sixth generation, under Nintendo's nose, I guess legally, Microsoft bought up the rest of the stock and owned Rare and snatched it away from Nintendo. They lost this very good British development studio. And what did Microsoft then do with Rare? And I'm thinking, okay, well, now they're going to get new games, first-person shooters. They have Banjo-Kazooie. They could make Banjo-Kazooie sequels. Microsoft basically just sat on Rare and did nothing with it. They would release an occasional Rare game that was usually not well received. I used to have a suspicion they gutted the staff after they bought it. I think I read somewhere later on that Microsoft's goal with buying Rare wasn't to have Rare games on their system, but was to prevent Nintendo from having rare games on their Nintendo systems, not about them having it on their Xbox. So I honestly do not want them to buy Nintendo. I think they'll take Mario and Zelda and lock it in a box somewhere. I think that's what will happen. But that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Well,
I'm angry about the rare thing still. And I'm
I
angry not because Microsoft bought it, it's because they bought it and did nothing with it.
yeah,
If
but
Rare had continued to make games for Xbox, that might even coax me into buying an Xbox back in the day.
okay, fair enough.
Okay.
But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Microsoft may exit the gaming business.
Yeah, that's the next article. Let's just jump into it. By the way, they did mention future games coming out before we get to the article. Fallout
Mhm.
3 remaster, Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster for those of you interested in that, and another Doom game. Does that surprise anybody?
So we're not getting new games, we're just getting remasters of old games.
No, we're getting it. It looks like a new Doom game,
Okay.
and it looks also like a new Elder Scrolls game. Apparently, Elder Scrolls 6.
So if it's not a remastered game, it is
It's a
a sequel
sequel.
game. So we're
Hey,
still not getting anything new.
hey, they just did new. It was called Starfield, and everybody hated it. Okay.
Well,
That was the pronoun thing. Remember the
that
pronoun thing?
tells you
Screaming face.
something. There you
Okay.
go.
But Microsoft may exit Game Pass if Game Pass subscribers of console don't increase enough by 2027. This is Game Pass. Do you know what Game Pass is? It's
Uh
the
yeah, it's like a subscription service for gaming,
I
basically.
think theoretically you can get it and play those games on your PC as well. It's
Okay.
like a subscription service. You have the games you can get on your Xbox and play the games on the Xbox, or I imagine on other devices
Hmm.
besides. So you could probably do it on your PC. Um, okay, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer has made remarkable statements on a potential exit from the gaming business. The quotes are extracted from the investigation hearing conducted as part of the Federal Trade Commission's investigation into Microsoft's acquisition, Activision Blizzard. Spencer said in no uncertain terms that Microsoft could exit the gaming business if this projection became a reality. Microsoft needs the light green and blue segments, PC and cloud, to get much larger, much faster by fiscal year 2027, or it could opt out of the business altogether. I do not believe that this is what the future Xbox business would look like. This is a presentation from our devices organizations to the gaming leadership team. So this is the view that the team is that from the team that is chartered with building our hardware on what the future business would look like. I can fairly say that if we do not make game more progress than off this console, we would exit the gaming business. If this were the outcome, we would. I don't believe we'd still be in the business. A majority of our customers are found off of our own hardware. I would hope for earlier than 2030. So when you ask me if I agreed with this chart, that the light green and blue, depending on what colors you see there, would have to be much larger, much earlier. I would say that FY 26-27 that we should be in that position, or we'd have to make a different decision with the business. Now, there is a reason to believe that Phil Spencer may have exaggerated a bit. Microsoft stressed to the whole FTC investigation and later in federal court that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard was critical to its plan to grow in mobile and cloud markets. Otherwise, it might as well exit the gaming business. You know what's interesting
Hmm.
about Sony, like PlayStation and Nintendo? They get me to buy their consoles by showing off games they have on their consoles. It's this
Yeah.
weird thing.
Yeah,
Like, here's a new
exactly.
Spider-Man game coming out for the PlayStation. This is why you want to buy a PlayStation. Here's a new Mario game coming out for the Switch. This is why you want to buy a Nintendo Switch.
Right.
And Xbox, it's all about the value of the Game Pass, where you own nothing. You basically have the subscription service, but it's incredible value apparently. Except that some of their internally developed games that are free on Game Pass are not well received. But then they also complain that those games don't sell well because you're including them in Game Pass, the subscription service, instead of making people go out and buy them on first release.
Right.
What do you think? Does any of this make any sense to you?
It does. And I'm just hearing, blah, blah, blah. Everything Troy said, blah, blah, blah. Own physical media, blah, blah, blah. You will own nothing and be happy.
I think was it Ryan Roger
Athe, yeah.
Athe, he was talking about the Xbox leaks, and I commented underneath, well, I guess I'll be sticking with Nintendo for the near future.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I just don't understand. I don't understand Xbox, and this is coming from a guy that thought the Xbox One. I actually liked the Xbox One. I liked the physical console, like the controller it came with.
Mm-hmm.
The games were fun. It was a simple game console, but they keep pushing this cloud strategy and the subscription strategy, which I want nothing to do with. And meanwhile, Sony and Nintendo, it's more about their exclusive games. That's how they're selling things. And I don't know. I'm hoping Sony doesn't take a point from Microsoft, because I know they have their own version of Game Pass on their system,
Mm-hmm.
but they still sell physical games. I don't know if there is as much about it, but I don't know. I I think Phil Spencer needs to go, but what do I know?
Mm-hmm.
Xbox used to have great Xbox exclusive days, as in the original days of the Xbox and the 360. Yeah, you're right about that. Halo was a big system seller. They used to have other exclusives too. They used to have the Dead or Alive games for a while. Do you know what the Dead or Alive games are?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
They're the fighting games with the pretty women, and they play like Aerosmith music in them. You know,
Yeah,
it's.
exactly.
I think those got canceled after the whole.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, I think like they put the women in less sexy outfits and stuff. I mean, it's still a Japanese game, so they'll still look better than a Western game. But yeah, it's bad. What are we moving on to next? Oh, Crystal Dynamics, yay! Embracer Group.
Yeah.
You want me to post it?
Nope, I got it. There
All
we
right.
go.
I hadn't talked much about the Tomb Raider game that they were working on because it was rumors. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to speculate on rumors until the thing came out. But I'll tell you what those were now, since it looks like this game may never see the light of day. Okay, more layoffs have happened in the video game industry, with the Embracer-owned developer Crystal Dynamics reportedly laying off a number of employees Wednesday. Several former employees confirmed layoffs have occurred. The news came via Crystal Dynamics employees who confirmed the layoff was happening across social media. While it's unclear how many people have been laid off, it seems as if the marketing and branding side of the company has been hit the hardest, with a handful of employees taking to Twitter to confirm they had been let go. Sadly, the Embracer layoffs keep coming, and I and a number of talented brand marketing folks at Crystal are impacted, said Nick Edwards, the former senior brand manager for Crystal Dynamics. His tweet also hinted at the other affected parts of the company, included project management, PR, editing, and 2D art divisions. On LinkedIn, other members of the team confirmed the layoffs, with former communications director Adam Kahn confirming that he had been part of the layoffs. In a tweet sent out from confirming the news, Crystal Dynamics said that it had been laid off, that it had laid off 9 brand and marketing employees, as well as one IT employee. The company citing internal restructuring as the reason why. The news comes as a bit of a surprise, earlier this year, Crystal Dynamics noted that it wouldn't be impacted by the large amount of layoffs that other Embracer-owned companies were going through at the time. The company is currently working on the Tomb Raider Remastered trilogy, which it announced this year and is set to release on February 14th, 2024. We talked about that, I think, the other week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not being done by Crystal Dynamics. I don't think they're involved with that remaster. That's a different development team working on that. This is Embracer Group. Remember when we talked a while back about Embracer Group buying everything up?
Yeah.
We were thinking, how could they do that? I don't think they could do that. I don't think they had the money to buy everything up.
Interesting. Yeah.
I had heard a rumor about this Tomb Raider game they were working on. This was rumor. This was speculative. I didn't even want to. I mean, it's like less than a grain of salt, okay? But this is the rumor I had heard, that this new Tomb Raider game was going to be about a team of Tomb Raiders, and it was more about protecting the artifacts for the indigenous peoples. That's what Lara Croft was all about.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to have a lesbian girlfriend that would, attack her for all her Tomb Raiding ways.
Of course.
And then it was going to end with her passing the mantle to, I think, a young Indian woman that was going to be the new Tomb Raider or something. But it was going to be about a team, and she was going to, fade off. So this is what I had heard. I don't know if there was any validity to these rumors. This sounds like the whole Saints Row thing again, that Embracer also funded. Like it was going to be another woke fest. I have no idea if this thing was actually...
Sounds like a real moneymaker.
Well, I have no idea if this thing was actually developed and they scrapped it, or maybe it never happened to begin with. Like I said, were rumors, but this doesn't look good for Crystal Dynamics. And I don't know what's going on over there at Embracer Group. Something fell through with them earlier in the year that was a disaster, and I don't know what it was. They didn't explain. They said a deal fell through. And I don't think we ever found out what that was. But anyway, we have the Tomb Raider Remastered trilogy come out. Maybe buy that before it becomes not available. Actually, I don't think...
If you actually think it's going to be anything worth getting a hold of.
I think it will. but you can wait for reviews to come out first. I think the whole point of it is it's supposed to stay true to the original trilogy, the original for the first three games, and I think it's we'll see. I mean, I more thing I'm worried about is if it's going to be a buggy mess. I don't think I'm worried about the fact they're going to be putting they're going to be changing things in it to make it more up to date for current times. I think they're going to just try to make them remastered versions of the original games, which is what people want to play.
Right.
Unfortunately, not all companies do that. So let's go over to Bandai
Yeah.
Namco. Sorry, so much gaming talk, guys. Hollywood's been quiet. There's a strike going on.
And it's all for the best. Let's be honest.
All right, but is Wonka even slated to come out this year at this point? The Wonka, the new Wonka.
I have no idea. I'm not really interested in it.
What do you mean you're not interested? It's gonna be a musical.
Oh, it's going to be terrible. I know it.
Bandai comments on lack of English voice acting for Bait and Kados 1 and 2 remaster. Bait and Kados were a couple of RPGs that were exclusive to the GameCube back in the day, the Nintendo GameCube. And the Nintendo GameCube didn't get a lot of RPGs, actually. A lot of them came out on PlayStation. So I remember picking these up back in the day, actually. I picked up Bait and Kados 1 and 2. It had this weird card battling system, which I don't know if I was ever a fan of. Everything was about cards back then because of Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that. So even regular RPGs had cards. It was all about card battling. But there's an HD remaster of these games coming out, but it may not be the game you played back in the early aughts. Bait and Kados 1 and 2 HD remaster are bringing back the original GameCube RPGs with numerous updates, but there's one key omission that won't be coming back, which is the English voice acting. Both titles did have a dub originally, but it won't be included in the new Switch version. And I'm thinking, well, that's odd. Maybe they couldn't get the rights to the actors, or something like that. Producer Koji Nakajimi explained the decision in a recent interview with Nintendo Everything. He mentioned how during development, the team tried to make adjustments on some of the expressions to match the current era.
Oh, God.
This would have ultimately caused discrepancies. Nakajima's full words. In developing the remastered version, we tried to make adjustments on some of the expressions to match the current era. That's why we made the difficult decision not to use English voiceovers in the remastered version due to the discrepancies that will happen. When it comes to the first Bait and Kados, the English dub wasn't exactly well received. Still having the option, especially for the second entry, in which things were ironed out, wouldn't have been a bad thing. Some fans have speculated the rights issue may have prevented the inclusion of English voice acting in Bait and Kados 1 and 2 HD remaster, but it seems this wasn't the problem. So, okay, I think there's a season where you're reading a book. I think Melanie Mack was talking about this on her channel. And the character goes up and it says, how to be a happy wife, and it says, and then the question mark, it's like a book, and it says, submit to your husband in all things. And that's what it was in the original version. The original version says, in the new version, it says the same thing, and then the person comments, yikes. And someone says, and like Melanie Max says, it's like the person doing the translating now is putting their own commentary on the text from the original game.
Right.
So now it's going to get basically up to the modern standard and up to the current day, which is ridiculous because when you buy an old RPG like this, you want to buy the original version.
Right.
You don't want to buy some
version.
Or if anything, you want to play something that's closer to the original Japanese version, because sometimes they used to take liberties, not for woke reasons back then, but they might take liberties otherwise. But this they're just doing to make it go with the modern standards of what is prim and proper in our modern society. And I'm like, I'm not buying these remasters.
Yeah.
And the reason
these aren't remasters, these are reimaginings, is what they are.
This is my problem though with these remasters. Like when you're buying an old game, you think it's safe. It's like the whole expression was, why don't I just go play the old games? Well, in this case, if you go buy these old games, they've been altered.
Yep.
And I'm used to have seen bad localizations on modern stuff, but now apparently remasters of old games are getting bad localizations as well, for current day. So anyway, never heard of Bait and Kados. Well, put it out of your mind then, because I'm not recommending the remasters to you, okay?
Yeah.
They were okay. They weren't the best Switch RPG. I mean, they were on the Switch, so they were pretty good for the Switch, but the PlayStation just had tons and tons of RPGs at the time, and not the Switch, the GameCube. The GameCube had like hardly any RPGs.
Yep.
But the new Willy Wonka has a major baby face. Yeah, it's the Timothy Chalamet from the what do you call it? Dune.
Yeah.
They were between him and Tom Holland. Those were the two, and I guess he won out. You're not interested. You're interested in theme parks. Yay.
I was just gonna say, because if you don't like these bastardized remasters, let's just go to a theme park. Forget the video games. Oh, wait a minute, we're talking about a theme park based on video games. That's why I said it was gaming adjacent.
Here's the thing with Nintendo and their own localizations, they're hit and miss. Like if you're going to play the new Zelda game, they're going to try to make that localization good and fairly universal around the world, because I heard the last Fire Emblem localization that came out was a bit of a disaster, though. So it's hit or
Yeah.
miss with them. But like their major games, they'll be released decently. Anyway, NBC Universal reveals details of Epic Universe Florida theme park plan for 2025. I found this article frustrating. I'll explain to you why as we're reading
Okay.
it. Speaking at the Bank of America Media Communication and Entertainment Conference, Woodbury said the new park. Oh, wait, sorry, there's a little bit. NBC Universal's Mark Woodbrow, CEO of Universal Destinations and Experience, revealed new details Thursday about the planned Universal Epic Universe theme park, which is scheduled to open in Florida 2025. Speaking at the Bank of America Media Communications and Entertainment Conference, Woodbury said in the new park is the most technologically advanced park yet for Universal. This park will also usher in the use of facial recognition photo validation technology that will allow guests to have a frictionless experience at this park, as well as the company's other parks in Orlando. It's interesting. I wonder if theme parks are the testing ground for future surveillance state stuff. I'm just
Oh
curious.
wow. Okay, yeah. I see why you say that.
It's the most technologically advanced park we've ever done, Woodbury said, and it speaks to both the attractions themselves, the next generation of robotics, drone technology, all the way through to the guest experience. The full guest journey is really being taken to a whole new level. The park itself will comprise 4 themed lands. I'll expect they'll get more lands later on, but it'll have 4 lands to begin with that are based on powerful trip driving intellectual property. One, which has already been announced, will be Nintendo Land, which will have the bigger footprint in Florida than it does in Japan and Hollywood. The 4 lands will surround the central hub, which will be a lush landscape with attractions and food service, which Woodbury said will differ from others and bring the park back into theme parks. Oh, bring the park back into theme parks. Okay, so it's like a park area in the park.
Apparently so. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah.
One of the big complaints about Disney, especially the Galaxy's Edge, but there were no places to sit.
Gotcha.
When you're walking around, you need a place to sit sometimes and just take a breather for 5 minutes, right? And I think the idea with the new Disney parks was that move along, keep moving along, and that's when your kids get cranky and the parents get angry, and just put water fountains, park benches, do that sort of thing. Okay. It's good. In creating the park, Universal drew upon its existing immersive experience, such as Harry Potter World, and also looked for a way to extend the amount of time visitors spend cumulatively at the parks in Orlando. The goal with Epic Universe, in addition to Universal Studios Florida, Universal Islands Adventure, Volcano Bay Water Theme Park, and its City Walk, is to get visitors to stay for a full week. I've been to City Walk at Universal. They have a House of Blues restaurant. You ever been there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I like that a lot. You know what I get when I you know what I got when I was there one time? I got it. It was on the menu. It was called Mother Cluckin' Chicken.
Okay.
It was fried chicken, but flavored like barbecue chicken. Isn't that not the weirdest thing in the world? And it was good.
Nice.
It was good.
Yeah.
I recommend it. But yeah. Anyway, that became an opportunity for us to look at how do we expand visitation to the Orlando market that would garner us a full week vacation. Right now, we get a good 3 days, Woodbury said. Oh, between the parks and City Walk. Universal is also adding 2,000 more hotel rooms for Epic, and the park will have unprecedented hotel integration to the park experience, Woodbury said. A fleet of electric buses will transport guests to the site, which is about 3 miles from Universal's North Campus in Florida. This all sounds good. This all sounds like the sort of thing Disney used to think of back in the day. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay, as for how Universal managed the anticipating demand after seeing high levels of interest for existing attractions such as the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and Super Nintendo World, Woodbury said the company has a good handle on it thanks to new technology. We have the benefit of new technology, and we're deploying in terms of managing ticketing, revenue, and revenue management across each of these platforms, he said. The park was originally announced in 2019 with a planned launch in 2023. However, construction was delayed by the pandemic. In addition to Epic Park, Universal will be opening a kids theme park in Texas in 2026 and a Halloween horror experience in Las Vegas in 2025. That is very smart.
Yep.
I've been to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. If they were to do a similar venue in Las Vegas, that would be really cool. The kids theme park is meant to target audiences between age of 8, while the sweet spot for the main attraction is families with children 8-year-olds and above. And the horror experience taps into existing franchises and partnerships with creators such as Jordan Peele. So this is what's interesting. So it's look like they're doing both ends of the spectrum there. They're developing a kids theme park in Texas.
Yep.
Because if you've ever heard of Legoland, I've never been there myself, but the idea behind Legoland was to create a park that had children's versions of the rides that they're too small to ride. Do you understand? That was the idea behind Legoland. It's a park for really little children. And I assume Universal's trying something similar with this park they're making in Texas. And Halloween Horror Nights is really neat attraction they have in Orlando. They do it once. They do it once a year in October. Sometimes you can go into a little bit into November, and you get to go to Halloween Horror Nights, and it's nuts. They have like 8 different mazes, maybe more, that you can go through. Like, like you go to your local county might put on a horror maze. Like we have one in our local town, which was done by the police and fire departments. Horror mazes.
Sure, absolutely.
Those. These are sort of like those, except sometimes they're licensed with things like they had a Child's Play maze one year. They had an American Werewolf in London maze I went through one year, right?
Yeah.
And you get to walk through, and one of the parts in the maze is the movie theater from there. So I had to look at the screen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all blurry. It's all blurry. You heard the moans, but it's all blurry. I got angry.
Well, it's like I know that these panic rooms license properties.
Sure.
So in fact, for my birthday, was it last year? Netter took me and some friends to the escape room for it was a Batman themed.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You get trapped in Arkham, you're trying to get out. We all died, just full disclosure, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it sounds neat. It's funny, the public library system even had access to a couple of themed rooms. I'm not going to mention what they are on air, maybe off the air, just in case I can't. But hey, Troy and Boomer, since the writer strike is going on, have you thought about going into book publishing world more often? Here's what I actually looked in. I actually read an article recently about book publishing because I'm thinking they have to have problems too. And apparently a lot of the young editors are stressed out to the brink. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Like they're having to live in New York City and places like that, and their wages aren't reflecting the rental costs, and they're working all the time. And they're saying that they're complaining that they want to be able to edit while on the job instead of at home, but they're too busy going into useless meetings all day. So I don't know. Maybe I will look into book publishing. Maybe I'll look into that. Maybe we'll do a publishing industry article sometime soon. That's a good idea. Good idea. Especially since the writer's strike is going on.
Yep.
Is there anything new and interesting in publishing?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a particular bit of news or an article that you'd like us to look at,
post it. I'll look into it. I don't know. I know that the publishing world has its own set of problems. I love Legoland. When my parents gave us the choice to go to Disney Legoland, we chose Legoland and we didn't regret it. Okay, that good. All right.
Yep.
I heard it's a good park. It was a year after the Lego movie came out. And we went and they had original sets with Will Ferrell and the kid used in live action parts of the movie. I saw the pictures. Have you seen the Lego movie?
I have, yes.
That was a lot of fun. I thought at least the first one was.
The one thing I did want to say on this article before we move on is
I'm going to say a couple things too. Yeah.
A little piece here that is easily overlooked. It's this bit about where is it? I want to say the whole sentence here. Oh, it's a whole friggin' paragraph. Creating the park, Universal drew upon its existing immersion experience, such as Harry Potter World. Look for the way to extend the amount of time visitors spend cumulatively at the park in Orlando. The goal with Epic Universe is addition to Universal Studios Florida, Universal's Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay Water Theme Park, and its City Walk, is to get visitors to stay a full week.
Yes.
What does that sound like to you?
I don't know.
Sounds like the Disney experience
Yes.
with Epcot and the Animal Kingdom thing and the Magic Kingdom and Disney. What is the one Disney with the restaurants and stuff?
Treasure Island, Downtown Disney,
Downtown Disney, thank you, and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's the same kind of thing. They're throwing down the gauntlet at Disney.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing here.
They are here to compete. It's Universal is really focused on these parks. I don't know how much Disney is at this point. I am going to say this though. What are the other three major parts of this park? What properties are they based on? It's driving me nuts. They haven't said. Give us. We know Super Nintendo Land is going to be one of them. What are the other three going to be? What could they be? What's as big as Nintendo or Harry Potter or something like that? I would say maybe a DC park. The trouble is Warner Brothers has mismanaged that property so much. Is that the hot commodity it could have been if they had managed it properly?
Right.
So they could have done like a DC park in
Right.
this thing. I was thinking Universal Monsters Park, maybe, but the trouble is
the lack of media for it. Unless you're a big fan of the old films, the new stuff has not captured an audience.
One thing they do with the Halloween Horror Nights too, one of those mazes is usually based on one of the old Universal Monsters property. Like they'll do like a classic horror maze.
They own the rights. They may as well use them, right?
Like one was Dracula's Castle, and it was really creepy. It was one of the better mazes they had there, that you walked into.
It's the kind of thing that should almost become a permanent feature, right?
Yeah. Because they can't really do Jurassic World because they have Jurassic Park in the other park. What's the point?
Yeah.
There's already a Jurassic Park section of the other park. What's as big as Nintendo right now that they could do another park on? And I don't want to do another video game theme thing. So I'm trying to think what else is there. I don't know.
They might be having this exact same conversation behind the scenes there.
What do the kids like? What about Goosebumps? Is that still big? Of course, I know those books are now being...
I don't know. You ask me what kids like these days. I want to say, what? They're going to make a TikTok world?
I'm not going there. Unless I get to, shoot at the people. Is that part of the game? I'm sorry. Exactly. No, think of just one other park they could do, though. What does Universal own?
I don't know.
Maybe a Steven Spielberg world?
Oh, that would be good.
They already have an ET ride in the other park, but they could always do a different ET ride in this park. Maybe
could you imagine that? Yeah. Oh, well, no, all the DreamWorks stuff.
They do own, and they're with DreamWorks, like what? Like Shrek and Puss in Boots and all that? I could see them doing that based on that. Yeah, I could see them doing a section based on all that. Yeah, that makes sense. So they could do that. I mean, they did have a Shrek ride at Universal Studios, but they could do new things because they... So we'll see. I'm just curious as to what those other three parks are going to be. I heard one of them was rumored to be Fantastic Beasts. It ain't going to be Fantastic Beasts now because that thing crashed and burned. Thank you, Warner Brothers.
You make it a small part of the Harry Potter thing,
Well, that's the thing. It could have been a separate thing, but the franchise never took off, especially when they got rid of Johnny Depp. So I don't know what the... Because even with the Nintendo park, I heard rumor that they're taking one of the rides from Islands of Adventure and converting it to a Legend of Zelda themed ride, which is very cool because one, it's a Nintendo themed ride, but it's not in the Nintendo park. Gives you a reason if you're a Nintendo fan to go to the other park, right? And it's
so maybe there is
not Mario themed. Yeah.
If I've got a property that belongs in this park, but there's a reason to put it
like
in
maybe you
park,
have a Shrek ride in this park, maybe do a whole
you put it over here to make sure there's some kind of a synergy, get people going to the different parks. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
What about a Peanuts themed area?
How awesome would that be?
That might be neat. Yeah, because they already had they had a Dr. Seuss land in the other park. So I'm trying to think what haven't they done, but maybe
and that would be awesome, especially as you get to the holidays. You could have the Christmas,
Charlie Brown Christmas thing.
You could have the Halloween thing.
Yeah. You could do that. That might be an idea. Maybe I don't know how big Charlie Brown still is, but I think he's recognizable still. He's got all these Apple exclusive specials that I'm the only one that watches because they're all on Apple.
I was just gonna say, probably you're the only one that knows about it. I don't know anything
All
about
right.
it.
If Warner Brothers could get its act together with DC, they could do a DC theme park.
Right. But DC's got to get their stuff together too. So there's that.
Star Trek again. They could have done a Star Trek themed area. They could probably still do a Star Trek themed area, maybe.
Well, I heard someone was talking about doing a theme park in Las Vegas. That might be the time and the place to bring back the old Star Trek experience.
Yeah, that might be an idea. Because Universal did, I think, even have a version of the Star Trek experience at their park.
Yeah.
At one point, like it was that thing where you sat and they did the overview where you were fighting the Klingons on the ship. So,
but the only way that's going to happen is they gotta purge this JJ bullshit.
They gotta get rid of the JJ crap. See, there are all these properties that would be prime for a theme.
This is my big problem. When you have something that's not farmed out to other studios, you own it all lock, stock, and barrel, but you make these stupid ass contracts, subcontracts with others, production companies that tie up rights and just F up your whole franchise. That's what
a
it really
Star
comes
Trek area
to.
could be
We
huge.
blame it all on the woke, but it's not just that. It's all these cooks with their hands in the pot that want their share of the pie, and it's like, it's not your damn pie.
Think about it. A Star Trek section, a DC superhero section, and something else. You could, and then Nintendo Land.
Yeah.
That could hit it out of the park if Star Trek and DC were healthy right now, like they used to be.
Yeah.
This is what we say. You're letting.
Okay, I feel like ranting. You want to go on to Disney and we'll tear them apart?
Let's do it. I hate Disney. I'm sorry.
We
love Disney.
We're not doing more and more every week. I'm actually at the point where I'm actually enjoying watching the book. I really am.
Okay, well, I'm sure the investors aren't enjoying it if they actually have any control over what they do over that organization.
No, and we're going to be talking about that, starting with the initial cost for Rachel Zegler's Off-White film are already shockingly high. Well, I don't know who it's shockingly high to. I think Bounding into Comics knows better than that, but I'm not shocked.
Feel free to interrupt me at any point since I couldn't.
Well, actually, I need to step away for a second.
That's okay. I'll just
old
read
man bladder. So I gotta, and so
okay.
I'll be. I mean, I know too much information. Sorry, guys, but go ahead and read, and I'll be right back.
Now I have the Adam Sandler skit, The Longest Pee in my head, after he said that. But anyway, new report details the initial cost for the Walt Disney Company's live-action Snow White film starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, came in at $209.3 million. This new report from Carolyn Redd at Forbes revealed that the Snow White production went under the codename Hidden Heart Productions Limited in the United Kingdom, according to Reed. In the UK filings for the company, the Walt Disney Company had already spent $209.3 million as of July 31st, 2022. However, she notes that the United Kingdom's government has granted Disney a $41.1 million tax rebate, meaning that the net spend so far is at $168.2 million. The key to the point here is that these are just the costs through July 31st, 2022, and do not include any of the production and costs that incurred after that date. Ford rightly notes its costs are likely to rise sharply as more than a year of post-production still has to be done after the date of the financial statements. It's not just the post-production that will increase the cost, though. We know from earlier this year that they were also doing pickup shots without Rachel Zegler. It's likely those production costs and any more they might have done in the past year will also be included. Reacting to this information, financial and box office analyst Valiant Renegade wrote on X, Rachel Zegler's Snow White looks like it'll have a production cost of $300 million. It's quite possible it can go even higher than $300 million given the production costs that were incurred over the past year, as well as any kind of post-production work the film will undergo. Nevertheless, Reed claims, based on these initial numbers, the film will need to gross $336.4 million to break even. However, her calculation does not factor in marketing costs. She explains that studios typically receive 55% of box office grosses from domestic theaters and 43% of grosses from international markets. Thus, she explains, taking the average of 43% and 55% gives roughly a 50-50 split at the box office between theaters and studios. She then concludes, if Disney retains around 50% of takings of Snow White, the movie will need to gross $336.4 million just to cover the baseline spending of $168.2 million. However, as noted above, given there are clearly quite a bit of production costs that are likely to come in, as well as post-production and marketing, one could see the film needing to bring in at least $750 million at the box office, and that's using a conservative 2.5x factor for Valiant Renegade's $300 million minimum production. The 2.5x factor accounts for the different gross as well as the marketing costs. So what do we think? No more Kleenex for Disney. Laugh out loud. Welcome, Sir Reality. Welcome, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Is Troy back or is he still muted? So yeah, I don't know if we're to take these numbers at face value. They're going to be hitting over 300 million for the Snow White production, which has one of the worst marketing campaigns I've seen because Rachel Zegler cannot keep her mouth shut. Promote the movie. You need to get people who are fans of the original movie to go see your new movie. That's how this works. Not you don't batch the original movie to get people to see your new movie. So how are we feeling about Snow White here, chat? Huh? I don't know.
Sorry about that. There was a traffic jam on the stairs.
What does that mean? Cats?
No, I got distracted.
Maybe you got distracted. Oh my goodness. Okay. Do I want to know? Is this safe for this family stream?
It's safe. It's just boring. I had to put something away in the kitchen.
What?
Some dishes that were sitting out that needed to be put away.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't think this was going to be a topic
down there for 5 minutes. You leave me hanging up here. Snow White going to cost over 300 million. Valiant Renegade says, "What you thinking?"
No, yeah, it's absolutely. Oh, yeah. So again, make sure that you tag Valiant Renegade on this. But yeah,
I need to do that. Yes.
Valiant Renegade's a great channel because he brings these financial analytics that most of the other channels aren't talking about. They just regurgitate whatever the studios tells them to say. And look, we've been talking about whether a film is profitable or not, and we've been hearing a lot of people saying, it's really starting to look like Disney has not been profitable all year. They haven't made a profit on a single film all year. They're losing money. And then you hear they've spent over $300 million on Off-White, a film we know isn't going to even come close to making that much back. They're in trouble.
Out of all the things that could change for this movie, why did they give her a different dress? It does not look right on a person. It's fine on a cartoon character. It looks... Never mind. What am I
Honestly,
thinking?
The best thing that could happen to her is this strike to keep her mouth shut.
Are you excited at all for the Snow White movie?
I'm excited to watch it burn.
I was more excited for the Pinocchio movie. Even that looked like a trash fire.
I actually forgot about that.
That went straight to Disney Plus. They did not have the confidence to release that in theaters.
Well, I'm telling you, this Off-White thing, they better seriously considering taking a tax write-off on it, because it's going to fail. It is not going to make back the 300 million. At least they could write off the 300 million.
Well, I just felt awful about how she talked about the co-star with the prince. Scenes might get cut. That's Hollywood. And I'm like, why is the actress playing Snow White bashing her love interest, the prince, who we know nothing about?
Because modern audiences, modern feminism hate men.
Again,
hashtag Barbie.
I'll bring up the actress who played the Little Mermaid. At least she was talking up her co-star. I don't see Zegler doing that. This is just terrible. This is just awful. I don't understand.
She's a narcissist. She is really, everything she says pisses off somebody.
Do you think this is because she was a big successful YouTuber before she became a big actress? And do you think that has something to do with this? That maybe YouTube is not the place to be pulling from?
Yeah,
for these actors?
possibly.
I don't know. Maybe she's just an isolated case, but I'll be curious to see that.
I think she's a product of her generation, to be honest with you.
What, the pay attention to me on all that?
Yeah.
I guess she's what is it? Z. I guess that's the new generation. I don't know. Yeah. Any Z members in our stream though? We're not meaning you, obviously.
No, I firmly believe that our audience is at least a step above average. You know, even the trolls.
Snow White in a UFC ring with seven dwarfs would be fantastic. I would go see that. That would have been kind of funny, like a modern take on Snow White. you know,
I
do
mean,
you imagine Gina Carano as Snow White
but
now,
you know what? Keep in mind,
just beating the crap in UFC?
Snow White, the traditional Snow White, is in the public domain. You don't need to do the Disney version of her. So I would love to see somebody do a, you know, pot shot at Disney by doing some sort of a. I mean, in a way, that's kind of how DreamWorks started with Shrek, right? Taking a pot shot at Disney with all of their characters. You don't own the rights to these characters. These are not your characters. So, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs did show up in Shrek.
That would be funny. Like a woman who's a princess but doesn't know it because she was lost. I guess the child was lost at birth, and then she grows to become an MMA fighter, and then the kingdom comes back for her, and it's just her being an MMA. It's like King Ralph, except like a female MMA. Never mind. Never mind. What
No,
do
I absolutely love that. That's a brilliant idea. And then,
like a Gina Carano
she
type?
ends, and yeah, Gina Carano would be perfect. And then she ends up getting into the fight
And
with the
like there's
wicked.
someone bullying her nation that I guess she now finds out she's a part of. Like there's a name
Right.
right,
It would
and
have
she
to
just
be,
goes
like
and starts kicking ass physically with these.
the wicked queen, right, who can turn into a
Yeah.
black dragon, and she ends up being badly injured in the fight or something. And her I don't know, the prince who is her love interest or whatever, is so distraught. He comes and kisses her, and she wakes up, and then they together go and take out the queen or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, like double team. Like, what do they call that when you got two people in the
Tag
ring?
team.
Tag team. Yeah.
It's funny. I've been watching old wrestling clips from the late '90s, the Attitude Era in WWF when it was Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Chris Jericho and all them, where all the wrestlers were basically heels.
Yeah.
It's like just some were worse than others, but all of them were kind of bad guys. That was a
Right.
great era. I miss that
Exactly.
era. Jonathan Pagyu is doing his own Snow White graphic novel right now. It's called Snow White and the Widow Queen. It's a crowdfunded one. Okay, well we can look into
That
that.
sounds interesting.
I can just
Yeah.
imagine Betty Davis royally bitch slapping her as they put her in place. I'm saying the older actresses, the older Hollywood actresses, you couldn't,
Yeah.
basically they were not pushovers, right?
No, they were not.
But
That's why some of the older actresses look at these modern feminists and go, "You don't have a clue, girl."
I don't know, like look at like Barbara Stanwyck and all those. They you mess with them, they would mess with you right back.
That's right.
I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know. Okay. And now, of course, we have financial analyst calls for Disney to pull Marvel and Star Wars from Disney Plus after Ahsoka's premiere numbers so
Yep.
significantly declining membership. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and post that one.
Yep.
Nielsen released their viewership numbers for Ahsoka. Revealing the series 2-episode premiere only garnered 829 minutes. Financial analyst Valiant Renegade recently called on Marvel. Okay, this is Valiant Renegade again. So
Yeah. Well, see, and this is what's interesting. I didn't go out of my way to do articles, but I go to Bounding into Comics, and they're actually specifically referencing, Valiant Renegade. I'm like, there's something here. This is no longer, the independent side. This is real media, guys.
Yeah. So I have a question. This is 829 million minutes. That means 829 million minutes watched from beginning to end. Or maybe not from beginning to end. Maybe somebody just tuned in for 10 minutes and said, F this. Or something.
I don't know. I have
Okay.
no idea.
In reaction to these numbers, Valiant Renegade wrote on X, Ahsoka's viewership for the premiere measured lower than that of Book of Boba Fett when adjusted for runtime. That's awful.
Yeah.
Disney Plus has added millions of subs since then. None of them are signing up for Star Wars or Marvel. He then declared it's time for Disney to pull the plug on those franchises on Disney Plus because the cost to benefit ratio is way out of whack. They're spending too much money to produce mediocre crap at best that nowhere enough people are watching to justify these obscene costs. Hashtag Disney is dumb. If you do a
Yeah.
basic runtime calculation, simply divide the total minutes as viewed as reported by Nielsen by the runtime of 2 episodes, 100 minutes, it comes to about 8.2 million. And I guess that's not a lot, right? What it should be. As Valiant Renegade points out, this is indeed less than the Book of Boba Fett premiere. That show premiered only one episode in its first week and clocked in at 389 million minutes, according to Nielsen. Doing the same calculation, viewers clocked in 9.725 million, given the show's premiere runtime was 40 minutes. Here's another thing, too, I think Disney is doing. I think that they're milking Star Wars too much. When HBO had Game of Thrones, you would get 8, maybe 10 episodes a season once a year. That's
Right.
it. It would get people time to build anticipation. I'm not sure why Disney just didn't Book of Boba Fett, big hit, just keep piling on that show until, and when that show finishes up, then start another show. Instead, they're doing all these projects.
And there's another financial element here that when you go to Valiant Renegade, he can get way into the weeds. I mean, he does it in a way that he explains it to you. You don't feel like you're lost, but I can keep it real simple for you. Okay. Star Wars. George Lucas makes a movie, right? For however much it costs him. I'm not even going to quote dollars. Doesn't matter. He spent a certain amount of money to make it. 20th Century Fox spent a certain amount of money to market it.
Yeah.
Right? They released it in the theaters and people went crazy for it. And they went to see it and they went to see it again. And then they took their friends to see it again. And it was in the theater for more than a year. If I remember correctly, I may be wrong about that, but it was longer than usual for a film to be in the theaters. And then they took it off, right?
Yeah.
And then, so stop right there. Stop right there. Where did all the money come from that they made from Star Wars? It's real simple. It's obvious.
BlackRock?
No. Back then, it was very simple. You make a movie, people come to see the movie.
Yes.
You make the movie, you put it in the theater, people buy tickets. You buy tickets, you buy more tickets, you buy tickets again. That's where the money comes from. And when you've sold more tickets, well, actually, you got to say you got to sell at least twice as much in tickets as what it costs to make and market the movie. That's called profit, right? When you have a positive difference between the money you got coming in for the movie and the money you spent to make the movie, you've made a profit. And Star Wars made a profit, right? And then they re-released it some years later, and then there were sequels, and it keeps making money, right? Then they make toys
and
right?
Merchandising.
They put out the toys. And as far as 20th Century Fox, Lucasfilm cared about, they just sell the license and they make the money. But when you get down to the physical tchotchkes, Kenner spends the money to do the tooling and the plastic and make the toys, and then they market them and put them out in the stores. And how do they make their money? People buy the things. And they sell more things than it costs to make them and put them out. They make money. Now, jump to the modern day, right? Disney spends all this money on Ahsoka, right? Puts it out in the theater to sell tickets? No. Puts it on their streaming service. Do they suddenly have more people spending money to see Ahsoka than they did the week before Ahsoka came on? No. They have a subscription service. They're getting the same amount every month. Maybe they get a few more, but actually the numbers are showing they're getting less and less people. People are leaving Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So they're spending all this money to make nothing. That's your streaming model, people. That's why Valiant Renegade is saying they got to stop this bullshit. Streaming is fine if Ahsoka is a movie you put out at the theaters that sold tickets that people enjoyed so much because they saved Star Wars, and this guy that died, his character is so great. He's the best thing about it. Let's go see this movie. And I'll bring my friends so I can talk with them about it and all that kind of stuff. Now, after you've made your money, for Disney's sake, hopefully at a profit, now you take it and you put it on your streaming service. That's more content, give people more reason to come to your streaming service, but you don't gain or lose anything by doing that. Hopefully it's a net gain in the future as you make more value for people to subscribe to you. But you already made your money. And now, while it's on your streaming service, maybe start putting the damn thing on DVDs and selling those. Because guess what? You spend the money to put it on DVD. You don't have to remake the movie. You just take it and you put it onto a DVD. You print up the boxes, ship them out to stores, and you sell them. And the money comes
Disney
in
Plus.
and more profit.
Disney Plus exclusive.
Yeah. Or what you could do is you could just wait until 2035 and release, 4 seasons of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka and, the High Republic and all the other bullshit and put them all into one collection for, $25 jillion and no one buys the fucker because they can't afford it. I knew I was going to get worked up if we started talking about Disney, and especially Star Wars.
Now I'm looking up lunchboxes. Lunchboxes don't look like lunchboxes anymore.
No,
they're all felt. They're all felt.
Felt?
Look at this. Yes. Oh, there you go. Here. Oh, wait, look at this. Classic Star Wars episode 4 lunchbox, $21.99.
Is that the black one with the
yeah.
I had that one as a kid. Yeah.
I think there's a reproduction of it they're selling now. That's kind of funny.
Well, that's fine. I don't mind the reproduction. I love that lunchbox. That was a fun childhood memory for me.
They could just bring Luke Skywalker back. They could do that.
Oh, no. White man bad. White man bad. No, they can't do that.
You do an animated series, get Mark Hamill to voice him. You could.
They don't even need him.
They don't even need. They don't need him.
They already own his voice. They don't need him.
No, let's not go there again. Let's not go to this horrible world. Hello, Mr. Matchstick. Good to see you. But yeah, there's some more to this article too. But I don't know. It kind of covers the thing. Samba TV.
Oh yeah, Samba TV. Actually, I've been finding Samba TV to be a much better resource for viewership.
Yeah. So if you want to find that link, and I'll just go ahead and start reading and then I'll post it. Okay. These Nielsen numbers follow up reports from Samba TV that indicated the series had one of the least viewed Disney Plus Star Wars. Somebody noted the series only garnered 1.2 million U.S. households in its first 6 days. They wrote on X, the latest new Star Wars series, Ahsoka, finally hit screens 1.2 million households after its first 6 days. This is similar to viewership of Andor's premiere season and slightly lower than The Mandalorian's third season over its first 6 days. So it sounds like even The Mandalorian is not doing as hot as it used to.
No, because again, after season 2, with all the hype about Luke Skywalker that you were just talking about, season 3 was shit. It really was. It was weak sauce. And again, all the different things people talk about, all of it goes together. It's no one thing. There's also the fact that these series, these seasons of shows really should just be one fucking movie released in theaters. They're taking what is 2 hours of story and stretching it out to boredom levels. If you watch the original Star Wars, there's stuff happening all the time.
Yeah.
And they throw in lines here and there, and you got to pay attention to keep up,
Stuff going on in the background that you can look at and all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even at the beginning with the Rebel base on Hoth, there's stuff going on in the background you can look at, and it's just
and here you get, these people on a ship talking and then long silences where they think about what they're going to say and what the other person said, and long looks, and it's like, this isn't some kind of, pantomime or something. Just get it out. This is supposed to be an action film. This is Star Wars. This isn't Waiting for Godot.
I had 2 Star Wars lunchboxes. What would it be, Waiting for Yoda? Would that be the Star Wars version of Waiting for Godot?
That's actually very funny. Waiting for Yoda.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna have to make a meme of that. That's good.
All right, so I don't know. You're not. What happens after Ahsoka? I guess there's Andor season 2 still, right?
Maybe.
Is Mandalorian done and over with, or is there still going to be
No,
more
there's
of that?
supposed to be another season of Mandalorian
Okay.
also, and then they wrap that up and they dovetail. Is there going to be a second season of Ahsoka? I don't know. And then it's all supposed to lead up to an Ahsoka movie, which I guess is supposed to be their heir to the Empire without Luke, without any of the
Why aren't
Star
they going to have
Wars
Luke in
characters.
it? Wouldn't he be involved?
Nope. It'll be all about Ahsoka.
It should just be him still training Grogu, right? He's still on the planet, and there's
No,
make a
Grogu
decision
isn't
already.
even with them anymore. They took him back.
Well, then what's he doing? Is he? Are they gonna find him and
They're have him on his island? Getting new Jedis that are all going to get slaughtered later on.
There's gonna be a young Kylo Ren that he just slaps around.
Absolutely. No, you guys got to know. You already know Luke's story. This is why everyone got so excited about seeing Luke at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. Why are you so fucking excited? He's gonna take Grogu. He's gonna start a dojo.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a whole bunch of kids there that are gonna learn the Force, but his nephew's gonna kill them all. And he's gonna become a hermit, sucking green milk from a manatee. You know the story. Why do you need to see that? That's also why the Solo Star Wars story failed. We just saw this character die. We know his story. We loved it in the original trilogy, but we know he becomes a deadbeat dad, leaves his family, and then gets stabbed in the chest by his punk son and dies.
I know for a period people thought that Favreau might be turning things around, but I guess that's not what ended up transpiring.
You want to know how Favreau turned things around? Look at what happened to his character in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Was he involved in that, though, or did he just say, F it, I give up? And what's Favreau even doing right now at Lucasfilm?
No idea. Although if you hang out at certain cantinas, they believe he's now in charge of Lucasfilm.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out someday, because apparently Kathleen Kennedy gets to stay on at Lucasfilm even despite the fact that Dial of Destiny was this huge disaster. I recommend these YouTube series of Mahler. He's doing.
You brought me that video. Right? Yeah. I saw that.
I sent him the one for Ahsoka. Basically comparing it to this.
Yeah, I'll be looking into this Mahler guy more. Yeah, no doubt about that.
So now our final story of the night. We're gonna have some strike news. You're not excited. You want to stay in Ahsoka land?
Oh, right. Okay. No. For my blood pressure, it's probably better we get off that.
From Mauler to Mar. Did you like the little segue I did there? Huh? No.
It was a segue, at least. I mean, I'll take what I can get.
So they were getting a lot of flack for this, Drew Barrymore and
Bill Maher,
Bill Maher, about the fact that they were breaking with the strike. But someone made a point on another channel. I didn't realize this. That these are not scripted shows that they work on.
Usually not. Yeah.
Theoretically, they should not even be involved in this strike. They should still be able to produce shows. Obviously, Bill Maher can't have actors on his guest panels. We could have politicians or pundits or other people on. There's no reason why he couldn't continue to do his thing. And I guess the same goes for The Talk, which I assume is some kind of talk show that Drew Barrymore does.
And I think that they kind of looked back at the last strike and they were like, well, wait a minute. All these talk shows, they just did their shows without writers. So we should be able to do the same thing. We're just going to go ahead and do the same thing.
Yeah, and they did that during the last strike. I remember when that happened.
Exactly. The problem is that, and I'm sorry, there's YouTubers that I respect a lot, and they're in the industry and they know things from a very different perspective than I do. But they also have a bias. I'm just going to say that. So I'm not calling anyone out, but I am pointing out that people have their bias. And I happen to disagree with this one. Apparently, in the Hollywood entertainment community, there's still contracts where, in a situation like this, what Drew was supposed to have done was gone to, these contractual people, the what do you call it? The union. She was
Right.
supposed to go to the union and say, look, we're not really involved in this. Can we get a special dispensation, my lord, so that we can continue to do our show? I bow and genuflect and kiss your ring, and you give me the blessing to continue on, so that my people don't starve to death.
Well, yeah, Bill Maher was making a point that some of his people are going to be losing their houses soon because they can't keep up with the mortgage payments because of what's going on with this. Yeah.
And of course, the pro-union side is going to be, well, you do this now because otherwise you won't have a job in the future. You know what I say to that? And you know what most people in the industry are starting to say to that? The ones that are going to lose their jobs? Fine, I'll go flip fucking burgers. I need to make money to live. I'll change careers then. Let them make AI movies. I need to move on.
So I'll read from the article and then we can do
Yeah.
our final comments. Drew Barrymore has now joined Bill Maher in the talk and delaying their returns of television after criticism of their decisions to resume production while Hollywood strikes are still going on. Barrymore announced Sunday via her Instagram account that after receiving blowback from her decision to resume production, she's decided to press pause. I've listened to everyone and I am making the decision to pause the show's premiere until the strike is over, Barrymore wrote. I have no words to express my deepest apologies to anyone I have hurt and, of course, to our incredible team who works on the show and has made it what it is today. She went on to add, we really tried to find our way forward, and I truly hope for a resolution for the entire industry very soon. CBS Media Ventures voice support for Barrymore's decision to reverse course. We support Drew's decision to pause the show's return and understand how complex and difficult this process has been to her. The CBS Media Ventures spokesperson said in a statement, the news comes 1 week after Barrymore announced that she would be bringing back the Drew Barrymore show, even though she had walked away from hosting the MTV Movie and TV Awards just days into the strike. Barrymore also received criticism from fellow actors and the Writers Guild of America. This represents 11,000 writers in television, movies, and other creative media that has been on strike since May, demanding higher wages as well as clearer provisions in their contracts around artificial intelligence. Barrymore posted a since-deleted video of herself tearfully explaining why she was bringing the show back. In the comment section, actor Deborah Messing wrote, I hope you will reconsider. The National Bank Foundation also rescinded its invitation to Barrymore to host its annual book awards following her decision. National Book Foundation. Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of mean.
It's become a piranha tank now. These, again, you got these more successful, wealthier actors, saying no, you shouldn't do this, but the rank and file people are friggin' starving to death, and this is exactly what it comes down to.
It's not her. She's not worried about it. Neither is Bill Maher. It's not they're worried about their staff. The
That's
people
what I'm
working for the show.
about.
Yes,
that's what I mean. And then
Yes.
you got Messing coming out and saying, I hope you reconsider. Oh, I hope you reconsider trying to make sure people don't starve to death. That's the most tone-deaf friggin' thing I've ever heard.
So this has been going on a while. Is this one of the longest strikes in history? May?
I don't know.
So the Writers Guild, I heard that they might be ironing things out finally. I heard a rumor about that, but they're still
but it
talking.
sounds like they're only going to be doing it to get working for the next 3 years, and then this all happens again. And that just gives the studios 3 more years to enact their AI initiatives. That's just really brilliant. I mean, this is, regardless of what you think about the unions, the union is just left and right screwing over the people they're supposed to be representing here.
Yeah. Well,
it's a friggin' clusterfuck.
I don't know, though. We're not going to have movies soon enough, though, if this keeps going on. They keep postponing all the movies. We're supposed to get Dune this year. No Dune.
Yeah, I am a little bothered about Dune. I am a little bit bothered about, the Ghostbusters 4. But
That I was looking forward to the most. Yeah. Oh well.
But I got to be honest with you guys. Dropping a link. Screw Hollywood. Independent film is where it's at. Make sure you go check out
Oh
Island in the
yeah.
Stars.
I actually
Contribute. Make it happen. We do all this bitching about what we don't like coming out of Hollywood. Let's put our money where our mouth is and contribute to make the new thing happen.
Here's what I'm going to ask you to do if you're on the fence and not sure or whatever. Just watch the trailer on the Indiegogo
Yeah.
page and see if they sell you. They sold me. Okay, I did.
Yep.
I did up for it. But like I said, just watch the trailer. I think if this thing happens, this will be a memorable movie if it gets made. So I wish them all the best.
I
put my money where my mouth was on this too. So,
I honestly believe it is going to happen.
Yeah.
I know that they're really struggling to get to their goal in the time that they have, but I also know that if they can make enough, there are bigger backers waiting to.
That's what I think is happening here. They want to see if it can get the backing it's getting now, and then they'll back more money into this production. Like, this is not going to be some small movie. I think it's going to be a major production. This happened with a game that actually I didn't back. I probably should have back in the day, but Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, was maybe the guy that used to make the Castlevania games.
Oh, okay.
And his whole thing was about getting it backing on, like, I think it was, I forget what it was. Maybe it was Indiegogo or maybe the other one. But he got it backed, and then that interested a publisher in actually publishing it later on and bringing it out. And now you can buy it on any storefront. You get a physical copy if you want a physical copy. And now there's talk of him doing a sequel. So the thing is that that's how these things start. They start small like this, and then hopefully it gets the interest of bigger investors.
Well, keep in mind, this is also how Star Wars started, right? Star Wars started out as an independent film. He was financing it all himself. And then he went to 20th Century Fox to get some help. Although he went to other studios too. But since then we know that maybe it would have been better if it had just been him and not 20th Century Fox as involved as they were. But
well, I don't know. He did keep a lot of control considering.
Yeah, that's the other thing, keeping the control. But again, this is the independent stuff. Look, this is no different. How do you fight the comic book industry? Invest in the Rippaverse. How do you fight Hollywood? That's the other thing. This isn't being filmed in LA. This is being filmed in Australia. Yeah. Think about some of your favorite Australian actors that could be in this film if it gets made.
I mean, Mad Max, that was an Australian production, wasn't it? Road Warrior?
It was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So, but yeah, keep an eye out on that and definitely watch the trailer for it. See if that doesn't pique your interest. I think it will.
Yeah.
But
so there you go.
I'm trying to think what else is going on. But yeah, I think indie projects for now until Hollywood gets its act together. Seriously. Just I want a decent Superman movie. And don't follow it up with traumatized Supergirl saying, "Sorry, I didn't have a nice life on a farm, Clark." I don't want to see that either happen in the sequel,
Right.
That apparently the traumatized Supergirl movie they're going to be working on next. I'm like, no. Where she was like on a decaying. I just.
Is it going to be that they open up her suspended animation matrix and she complains, "I did not give consent to be awakened," or something like that? Just saying.
What does he have left after Snow White? Oh, they're doing the Lion King prequel. I forgot about that.
Prequels always go well.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we know Mufasa's going to survive at least that movie because we know he dies in the next one.
Anyways, what's going on this week? I guess that wraps us up for this week. Hopefully, we'll have more interesting news next week.
I'll tell you what.
I'll see if I can find something interesting in publishing. We'll see.
Everything happening this week is going to be far more interesting than what we're getting out of Hollywood these days.
Well, let's go. Well, let's move on. Do you have anything going on before Wednesday?
Well,
tonight is Other Side of Midnight.
Tonight, over on Deleted Scenes, The Other Side of Midnight.
Let's find a link to his channel in the description below. Okay.
Yeah, let's definitely enjoy the winding down the weekend. and get ready for tomorrow.
Okay.
But yep, that's over on Deleted Scenes channel. There's the link. Make sure you stop in and hit the thumbs up in about an hour or so.
Yes.
And we got a Monday bird sighting, or is that nothing until Wednesday?
I think nothing till Wednesday. We are going to finally do our rewatch of Race with the Devil with Peter Fonda and Warren Oates.
There you go.
It's a classic. So you look forward to that.
There you go. So that's Soundtracks with Birdman on Wednesday.
And then Thursday things.
Thursday things over on Netters Network. And give me a second because I just accidentally erased part of it trying to do the copy paste. Copy and paste. There we go. Netters Network. Special guest will be Lawrence Knight. That'll be at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. There's a link directly to it. So you can just, right click on that and hit the notification bell so that you know when that goes on.
Lawrence
But of
Knight.
course, yes, Lawrence Knight.
Sounds like a superhero alias name.
It absolutely is. You can check out his channel. The link is in the description, and it's in the description to that link that I just dropped. And yeah, he's a great guy. Hangs out on some of the more politically minded channels that I've been on. Linus Exiled and Samael the Infamous and so forth. Great guy. So we'll get to meet him and get to know him a little bit better on Thursday.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. And then Friday
night, my special guest behind the bar, guest bartender, is Culture Casino. Looking so forward to that. Really, this whole stream is just going to be an excuse for me to hang out with Culture Casino. He is awesome people. But I saw him a couple weeks back on another channel doing a discussion about the movie Hudson Hawk. And I was like, dude, would you be interested in coming on my channel and doing a watch party of it? Because I don't think that film has gotten its due. So the Bruce Willis film from 1991 that many of you may not have even ever heard of. We will watch together on Friday, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on my channel. And there's the link.
Cool.
And then Saturday, over on Netters Network again, watch party of the movie The Commitments. A little bit of 90s Irish soul band.
Coleman Meaney's in that.
Coleman Meaney is in that.
And he'll sing Elvis. He sings an Elvis song.
He does sing an Elvis tune. Very badly off key. I
loved it though. Yeah.
I did an Elvis song last Friday. Well, that's 2 days ago. For Last Call. Go check it out if you're interested. Yes. I don't think I'm the greatest singer, but I think I did better than Cole Meany did. I don't know. Maybe he's a great singer when he's not, playing a role, but in this particular role, yeah, not
they probably made him sing bad on purpose. I think that's what they were getting at, probably.
Yeah, it absolutely
it was probably to contrast the young people.
The basic story is that his son is starting up a band, and he's trying to find, bluesy, R&B type singers, and he's having a little bit of difficulty, and his father hears about it, and he's like, I do some Elvis, wise men say, and he's like, no, Dad, please no. So we will watch that on Saturday, and that is the weekend review.
Still waiting for Sherlock Holmes 3. So am I. I'm the only one, you and I, because people didn't like those Robert Downey Jr. movies. I enjoyed them very much myself.
Although that is one that I have the first movie of in DVD. Netter ordered it. I don't know why, but it's on my...
Because it's a good movie. That's why she ordered it.
She's never seen it. She doesn't know.
I enjoyed it.
You're weird.
Sequel was okay, but I'm not going to spoil it. There was something at the beginning I didn't like, which I hope maybe they would fix in the third one. Maybe a certain character isn't dead after all, because that's the only thing I didn't like. All right, my live review of The Expendables, 11:30. So that's coming up on Deleted Scenes channel, and be sure to check him at 5 minutes after the midnight hour for The Other Side of Midnight. But Expendables 4, what do you think? Huh? Maybe good.
Jason
Statham.
I don't know. I haven't seen 2 and 3,
I've
so.
seen the other ones. I think 2 was my favorite of the
Oh,
3.
really?
I did like because Jean-Claude Van Damme was the villain in part 2, and that was funny seeing him
Yeah.
ham it up as the villain. And I've often argued that with those movies, I kind of would have liked to have seen just a Stallone Jason Statham team up movie. I think they worked well together on screen,
Mhm.
and I would have liked to have seen more of that. But we'll see how Expendables 3 turns out. Ain't nothing else in the movies. Might as well go see that. The worst things than spending some time with Stallone, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's always
And
good.
that about wraps it up. But hopefully we have better news this week, not depressing topics. Like I said, I thought, wow, this Universal park, cool, cool. And it's like you didn't tell me what the other 3 parks are. You're keeping me guessing. Just give me one
Yeah.
other. Everyone knows about Super Nintendo Land. Give me
Although
one
I'm coming to realize that a lot of times you'll get announcements about plans, but they don't say a lot about it, and it's usually because they don't know yet.
They have to have some idea. They have to start building it.
We'll see.
Lady Miss, welcome. And good night because we're heading out. All right. But everyone take care.
Yep.
And
Take care.
we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.